Hi, Merry Christmas. Welcome to Frontline. 6 o'clock here on the East Coast. And according to NORAD's Santa tracker, Kris Kringle making his way through the Eastern Hemisphere. And we begin tonight with President Trump tearing into the woke late last night. Those hosts, man, they got it. Americans who've had the worst take, those leftists, the ABC, CBS, or NBC, all saying they all have three things in common. They have high salaries, no talent, and really low ratings. So Merry Christmas to them from the White House. Also, ICE reportedly plans to hold 80,000 illegal immigrants at the time in warehouses in Virginia, Texas, Louisiana, Arizona, Georgia, and Missouri. Better than driving the big rigs with no names given, right? And Jasmine Crockett says she doesn't believe Trump has secured the border. Okay, saying she doesn't trust the numbers. We're going to have more on that genius commentary in just a few minutes. But first, ode to waste, fraud, and abuse. I was shocked about how much money the government lit on fire this year. Let's do this. Are you not entertained? Ladies and gentlemen, happy Festivus. You know, the holiday where we air our grievances. And boy, do I have a couple grievances this year. Starting with the fact that we spent $272 million every hour, but also mostly because I was told when we got the majority back that they wouldn't be spending that much money, especially on stupid stuff. And we got off to such a great start with Doge canceling foreign aid and all this other stuff. And then only got a measly $9 billion rescission package to Congress, which is about 1.3 days of spending at current rates. And instead, Congress still hasn't passed a budget, and we're still spending COVID-era amounts on continuing resolutions that Biden signed into law. Look, love him or hate him, the seemingly only true fiscal hawk left in the Senate, I think, is Rand Paul. He just dropped his 2025 Festivus report, the 11th edition, by the way. You can go back and look at 10 more of these. And according to him, our government has wasted a staggering $1,639,135,969,608 this year. Which, by the way, that $1.6 trillion, the money that we wasted this year in this report, is more than the GDP of Spain and the Netherlands. It's only slightly less than the entire GDP of Australia, South Korea, and Mexico. It is staggering to know that you how corrupt do you have to be to have the GDP of entire, developed nations wasted and not have anybody go to jail? Elon Musk and some of the brightest people in the world, they slept on the floor working 20 hours a day eating takeout, putting all this info like, hey, look, here's $250 billion that we found that is fraud, waste, and abuse. And nothing happened. It went right back into people's pockets in Washington. And Pam Bondi has arrested approximately, give or take, none of those people. And Rand so eloquently noted, quote, no matter how much taxpayer money Washington burns through, politicians can't help but demand more. I mean, he's absolutely right. I mean, the big, beautiful bill was about the only time we reversed tax growth other than the last time Trump was president. Meanwhile, I'm just over here demanding that they show us the gold that they say is backing up our economy in Fort Knox, and they won't even do that after they said they would. Fiscal responsibility, no matter which party is in control, is I've come to know that it's just a joke. It seems the more they campaign on it, the less they actually care about it once they get into office. You've got like 10 or 15 people in Congress, one of which I'm about to have on, that actually care, and 2 or 3 in the Senate. We're up over 60% in this waste report from the end of COVID, by the way. At this rate, by 2027, we'll be wasting enough money to buy every single person in America their own private island. I hear Epstein's might be for sale, or maybe Bill Clinton has squatter rights there. We'll have to check into the law. But rest assured, if the government was buying islands for people, though, they'd probably waste a few more $1 billion on a feasibility or an environmental impact survey, because these are the people making the laws.
My fear is that the whole island will become so overly populated that it will tip over and capsize.
We don't anticipate that.
Good old Hank Johnson. That soundbite never gets old for me. Anyway, the biggest chunk this year, over $1.2 trillion, was spent on interest payments on the national debt. Look, we spend more on the interest than we do on the Department of War, which is also bigger than the defense budget of the next 25 countries combined, 23 of which are allies. But hey, at least we're not paying for shrimp running on treadmills this year. But we are funding animal drug parties. Over $1 million teaching teenage ferrets to binge drink alcohol. The VA dropped $1,079,000 on that because nothing says veterans care like getting rodents hammered. We're also dosing dogs with cocaine. They had to do this twice at $5 million a pop because apparently the first tests weren't conclusive enough. Oh, hey, Fido, you want to do some blow? You know, we got to follow the science here. I'm sure all that blow went to the dogs, right? Can we drug test some of the people who administered these trials? Because I'd be willing to bet that they have more cocaine in their system than the waters off of Venezuela right now. And this was an upgrade from last year. Last year, we only had rats on cocaine. But rest easy, Americans. The monkeys, the study of them playing video games was conducted just on max doses of espresso. Again, I want to know who signed off on funding these studies. I mean, Hunter Biden? He was running the auto pen, allegedly, right? Remember this?
Take an animal virus and you increase its transmissibility to humans.
Right.
You're saying that's not gain of function?
Yeah, that is correct. And Senator Paul, you do not know what you are talking about.
We're saying they are gain of function viruses because they were animal viruses that became more transmissible in human, and you funded it.
And you
admit the truth.
You are implying that what we did was responsible for the deaths of individual. I totally resent that. And if anybody is lying here, Senator, it is you.
Well, turns out Rand Paul was right. Hundreds of millions on gain-of-function lab experiments on dogs, monkeys, and rats. $1.5 million on celebrity influencers also to reduce drug use in Latinx community because, hey, we needed all that cocaine for the dogs. Another $1.9 million on hybrid mobile family interventions. What is that? That's text messages that they sent to targeted Latino moms to say, hey, put down your phone. Oh, by the way, make your kids put down their phone, too, and go out and get some exercise. $2.1 million for researchers collecting saliva samples from partiers at EDM festivals in New York. Better been wearing gloves, so they might have gotten ecstasy poisoning. $244,000 on cartoon in Pakistan teaching kids to fight climate change. That's money well spent. $40 million to influencers to promote getting vaccinated still, but only aimed at minority groups, though. Come on. $141,517 to create a resilient and equitable local food network that prioritizes culturally relevant food for low-income LGBT people of color from the Bronx and Brooklyn. I would rather have lit that money on fire. HHS gave $3.3 million to Northwestern University so they could hire 15 safe space ambassadors to dismantle systemic racism. I'm sure that was a great investment, too. $2 million for gender-affirming care, activism, and influence campaigns in Guatemala. Go look at the report. He's got the receipts. And to think we started a war 250 years ago on a 2.5% tax hike on a breakfast beverage, and now we're funding climate change cartoons in Pakistan to the tune of 3 times the median income here in America of the average taxpayer. This is sick. Look, I thought we were done with this stuff. This was supposed to be eliminated. Like, it's great that Rand is pointing it out now, but that money has been already spent, and it's not like the government ever gets it back. And I love how Republicans turn on him when he doesn't vote for one of these spending bills. I mean, that's why he is ideologically aligned with what he says he's going to do or not do. I mean, and the funny thing, too, is like they do all this stuff, and they're like, oh, it's the money's gone, whatever. You and I, if we owe the IRS like 7 cents from 10 years ago, they're going to choke that money out of you with interest and penalties. But sure, let's spend it on Coke for dogs. You see, at least a third, like all these third world dictators, all right? Everyone says they're terrible people. Yeah, they are terrible people, but at least they tell you that they're just straight up stealing the money. Here in America, we mask it behind NGOs and other garbage. Florida Congressman Randy Fine, one of the good ones. Sir, I mean, when you read some of this stuff, you're like, what am I voting for?
Stocking after listening to that monologue. Look, it's disgraceful. It's disgusting. And I've only been there 8 months, but I promise you I'll continue to do what I can to get rid of it. Because if we don't stop it, we're not going to have a country. I mean, that's the biggest issue.
No, you're 100% right, sir. And I look at this, and, you know, you've been attacked, too, for criticizing endless checks to whateveristan, and people are like, hey, you need to fall in line and vote for this, and you're one of the few people who's like, wait, hold on, what? Like cartoon in Pakistan?
Yeah, look, we have to show that we can govern and we have to stand with the president, but that doesn't mean we can't do better. We have done better. We did the first rescission in decades. The one big beautiful bill had the largest cuts to non-discretionary spending ever. And so we are making some headway. But what folks have to understand is with a razor sharp majority in the House and not 60 votes in the Senate, there are limits to what we can get done. And the best thing to do is get more people like me elected next year.
Yeah, what do you think about dumping the filibuster, though? Because Democrats are going to kick and scream over these Obamacare subsidies no matter what.
Well, I think it's something worth considering, particularly for must-pass bills. The minority party should not have the power to keep the government closed for whatever reason they want. And so for things like a budget that have to be passed to keep the government open, there's no reason the filibuster should exist.
Yeah, I actually happen to think the Democrats are going to do it the second they get back power, no matter what. So I don't know, smoke them if you got them. But Jasmine Crockett, I'm sure you guys are besties, right? She was asked about the fraud in the federal government, and in a classic Crockett fashion, she had this nonsense. Just watch this.
There is a lot of waste, fraud, and abuse in the federal government, though.
I'm not going to say that there's a lot. I'm going to say that it does exist. I'm going to say that it exists. I don't think that there's a lot. I think.
So why are we so in debt then?
We're in debt because we decide that we're going to reduce the income.
Well, does that make sense?
Well, look, there's waste, fraud, and abuse in Congress, and her name is Jasmine Crockett. I mean, the amount of stupid there is truly extraordinary. And look, you can see what's happened in Somalia, in Minnesota, with $9 billion stolen, what we're seeing in California with $70 billion stolen. Waste, fraud, and abuse is endemic in Washington. You highlighted specific examples that, by the way, wasn't fraud. Someone actually made a decision to spend that money on those ridiculous things. That doesn't count all the times where they're actually going and stealing the money.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. I mean, these are documented cases that Democrats have completely glazed over. I want to get your opinion on something with AmFest in the rearview mirror. A lot of contention on stage, and one of the things that's come out, and it bothers me because we're seeing this thing where we're criticizing Megyn Kelly, who's criticizing Ben Shapiro. I mean, these are guys like both sides. I grew up idolizing their ability to debate and the market of free speech and ideas, and I'm watching them. Look, Mark Levin attacked me. I mean, like this is not what we should be about. And how do we mend this without tearing it apart further?
Well, look, I would say debating is good. Our party allows people to have discussion. Theirs is the one that shuts people down. But I do think there is this growing negative effect of anti-Westernism in our party. People describe it as anti-Israel. It is not. It's anti-Semitism, but it's more than that. And I think we have to be willing to call it out, particularly because a lot of these podcasters don't even believe what they are saying. They are paid to say it by foreign entities like Qatar and China. So we should be willing to have that debate, and people should be open to it.
Yeah, no, I'm really glad you say that, because I believe that, we're always like, we're the party of, if there's speech we don't agree with, let's have more speech about it. And I'm glad you made the point of anti-Westernism versus anti-Israel or something like that, because I think the word anti-Semitic is being thrown around, I think, a little too loosely, much like, racist was at the Black Lives Matter thing. And I'm worried that it's devaluing it when it does actually happen. What do you think, sir?
Well, look, I think there's real issues out there. When you have Tucker Carlson standing up in AmFest talking about how we should have more Muslims in the country, where France just had to cancel their Christmas and New Year's celebrations because of it, it is a problem. But what we also have to understand is criticism is not cancellation. I may think Tucker Carlson's the most dangerous anti-Semite in America, but I'm not asking Citibank to cancel his credit cards, and I'm not asking, the podcasters to take him off the air. This is America. You're allowed to be an idiot if you want, but that doesn't mean that we can't stand up and talk about it. We don't want our party to end up like the Democratic Party, where they allowed these pernicious ideas to enter their party. They used to be liberal, but they weren't insane. And now you just talked about people like Jasmine Crockett. They're lunatics, and we don't want the same thing to happen to our party. That's why I'm going to keep fighting to stop it.
They're literally electing pro-communist Hamas people. So, I mean, Good luck with that one on the national stage. Randy Fine, pleasure, sir. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Coming up, an American school bus driver fired for asking kids to speak English. What? I mean, whatever. But first, Tim Walz cries white supremacy. Maybe he's scared to death because Harmeet Dhillon and the Justice Department are calling out his state's racial discrimination. Harmeet Dhillon joins us next.
Oh, hear the angels' voices, O night divine, O night divine.
I was tired of sitting on the sidelines. Now, thanks to Jointivia, I'm back in the swing of things. Wait, $70 for a refill?
You gotta try Single Care. Just look up your prescription, show the coupon at the pharmacy, and save.
Really?
Really. Single Care crushes the cost of my prescription, almost as much as I'm crushing Chad.
Unbelievable. See why more people are saving with Single Care. Common side effects include shockingly lower prices, excessive fist bumps, and humbling guys named Chad.
Joining us is Dr. Drew from the Wellness Company with advice for dealing with seasonal colds and flu. Doctor?
Cold and flu season is here, and every year you or a loved one gets sick. Your doctor can't see you. Waiting in a crowded urgent care is brutal. This is a particularly bad cold and flu season, and it's why doctors suggest every family needs an emergency medical kit. Your medical emergency kit is filled with essential prescriptions. It includes antibiotics like generic Z-Pak to get well faster, amoxicillin for pneumonia, strep throat, ear infections, plus prescriptions for nausea and UTIs, and even ivermectin. It's easy. Just match your symptoms to the prescription in your guidebook or call the telemedicine doctor standing by. Take your medication early and feel better faster. Having a medical emergency kit is like having an urgent care in your home. No waiting to see a doctor, no lines at the pharmacy.
Smart advice. We've shared the website and discount code below to save viewers $45. Order now and your kit will be rushed to your door. Thank you, doctor.
This is what happens when your own federal government wages war against you. This is what happens when they target communities for their own benefit. This is what happens when they scapegoat. And this is what happens when they no longer hide the idea of white supremacy when you hear the Vice President of the United States talk about now white people won't have to apologize for being white. That's never happened once in my whole damn life.
And that's actually the problem. Someone never got over J.D. Vance wiping them, like destroying them on the debate stage. It should come as no surprise, though, that Tim Walz would complain that the vice president was comfortable in his own melanin content, considering the Justice Department's Civil Rights Division, led by Harmeet Dhillon, is now suing Minneapolis public schools for racial discrimination against teachers. Now, the lawsuit noting that MPS, the public schools, seeks to increase their BIPOC staffing to at least 40% by 2026, and that by 2026 and 2027, at least by 54.3% of new teachers that identify as BIPOC. The suit also alleges that MPS, the public school system, awards black men teacher fellowships, additional benefits not available to female or non-black teachers. The one behind this lawsuit, Harmeet Dhillon, the Assistant Attorney General for the Justice Department's Civil Rights Division. Harmeet, it's such a pleasure to have you on this frequently because that means you're doing something literally every week that's moving the ball down the field. This is fantastic. No more discriminating on skin color.
Well, absolutely. And that's been the law for quite a while. But of course, the Department of Justice was never run before by an administration that cared about protecting the rights of all Americans. And yes, white Americans and men are protected by our employment discrimination laws. And so that's why when we see egregious examples like paint by numbers and color by numbers hiring in Chicago and Minneapolis, we open investigations, and where we gather the evidence, we file lawsuits. And this is a very clear case of not only disparate impact run amok, but the types of affirmative action that we are not having anymore in this country. And so disparate impact, DEI, that's all over from the federal government's perspective. And so we hope to end it here, make an example, and teach other cities and states they need to fix it before we come after them.
Yeah, I mean, the standard bearer should be, we want, if a school district says we want 40% new black teachers, like if you remove black and put in white and someone had a problem with it, it's the same thing both ways, but the left is learning that the hard way. Your department also suing 4 states, and this is like, look, Congress, I've asked for voter ID since, for a year now, and you said, okay, hold my beer, because you're now suing 4 states for failing to produce their voter rolls, D.C., Georgia, Illinois, and Wisconsin. And now your nationwide total is 22 jurisdictions because they're like, yeah, we're not giving that to you. And the reason you're asking for it is because there may be some inconsistencies there.
Absolutely. So I'm really proud of this project. We're up to 22 states that we're suing. 4 of them were sued on Monday. And, one of them is Georgia, which is a red state. And Brad Raffensperger just hates the president so much that he would rather spite the voters of Georgia and not help clean their voter rolls. But I am proud to say this is Christmas Eve. And even today, election officials in 2 states are working hard, and they uploaded their data. So we're up to 13 states that are voluntarily cooperating with us, including today on a holy day. And so I'm really proud of that. And we're going to cover all the jurisdictions before we're done. And it's really important that all Americans have confidence in the outcome of our elections, which in turn requires clean voter rolls, just as a start.
Well, Harmeet, the other thing is we were shouted down for years from talking about 2020. But now we've found out, and you have actually sued Fulton County in Georgia, because in a state that Trump lost by 11,000 votes, lost, I say, in quotes, they had 315,000 ballots that were unlawfully certified in 2020.
Well, we just learned that fact recently. We had already prepared our lawsuit and been back and forth with them. And I was kind of making a sports analogy yesterday about this. And it was really kind of the four corners play from Dean Smith, the UNC basketball era, where they just kept telling me, oh, well, the court says the clerk has it. The elections officials say the court has it. So all of them are pointing at each other and hiding the ball. These ballots exist because they were involved in litigation. They just refused to give them to us. And the Attorney General, for whom I work and I'm her delegate, has a right to inspect that information. And so we'll see what they have. Maybe they've destroyed it. Maybe that's why they're lying about it. But they had a legal duty to preserve them, and we want to see them and see what went on. It is only after I told them I was suing them, that they actually came out and revealed that, in fact, there's a massive discrepancy in the certification there. Yeah. So it's crazy.
And if they don't have them, I hope to see some bracelets on people if they destroy them. Here's one thing, and I got about a minute left. Spoke to about this yesterday on the show. The DOJ, you guys, suing D.C. over its ban of semi-automatic weapons. This is music to my ears. You're basing it on Heller versus D.C.
That's right. It's 17 years or so after Heller and 3 years after Bruin. And the District of Columbia is banning weapons that the United States Supreme Court 9-0 ruled this year are the most popular weapons in the United States, which by definition means that they are in common usage, and American citizens who are law-abiding should have a right to have them. I live in the district. I'd like to legally be able to possess an AR-15 in my home if I want to, and I can't. So that's why we're doing something about this. All citizens have rights, including those of us who live in D.C.
Yeah, true happiness is a belt-fed weapon, so I'd like to see you working on that one. Harmeet Dhillon, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you, too. Thank you.
All right, coming up, remember Joe Biden's scary winter of death? Well, COVID Christmas message back in 2021. We do. We're never going to forget that and what they tried to do to that. We got that in our Culture Clash.
I switched.
I switched. I switched.
I switched to Newsmax.
Newsmax. Newsmax.
Have you made the switch?
You bet I did. My whole family switched.
Millions are switching to Newsmax. You should too.
Meet Mike. Mike's been hearing a ton about CBD. Some people are telling him it's changed their life. Now he's wondering if he should try it. He's lucky because he has friends he trusts who have found a really good CBD product they recommend.
Nothing is as great as this stuff. I mean, Harrelson's own CBD is like my secret weapon.
No matter how many things come at me, I'm like, boom, handled, next.
Give your life a boost.
We make every bottle of Harrelson's Own from 100% organic CBD, hand harvested right from the farm. It's actually one of the fastest acting CBDs on the market today. So you start to feel it in seconds, not 60 minutes.
It hits my body really fast.
It like takes literally under 2 minutes to work versus 60 minutes. Other brands that I've tried take forever. I don't have time for that.
You're going to feel the benefits quickly, love the way it feels, pay a fair price, and you're going to thank us for it.
I used to be the kind of person that would take ibuprofen several times a week. I carry a lot of tension in my neck and shoulders, but first time I tried Harrelson's Own, my headache went away in like 10 minutes.
And then all of a sudden I'm like, I've got this. I'm a boss woman.
In order to connect with my kids, I have to not want to lose my mind. That's where Harrelson's Own comes in for me.
I'm just in the zone all day, fully focused, fully energized.
I'm like crushing it all day long.
I am much happier. My kids are definitely happier.
We know you are going to love Harrelson's Own, and your satisfaction is important to us. We are so confident you're going to be satisfied that we back every bottle with a 60-day, 100% money-back guarantee.
I absolutely love it. It has been a game changer for me.
Whenever like I come home, I've got plenty of energy to still go out with my friends.
Better nerves, better success. It is my secret weapon.
Give Harrelson's Own a try, from our family to yours. Go to ho.com to order Harrelson's Own now. Yep, it's that easy. Just our initials, ho.com. That's ho.com.
Nobody knows Corvettes like McMulkin Chevrolet, the world's largest Corvette dealer for 4 consecutive years. Last year, over 1,800 new Corvettes were purchased from McMulkin Chevrolet, setting a record for the highest number of new Corvettes ever sold in a calendar year by one single dealership. Experience why Corvette enthusiasts from all over the USA continue to choose McMulkin Chevrolet, with hundreds of Corvettes in stock and ready for immediate delivery nationwide.
When Betty and George turned 50, they figured out that switching 2 unlimited lines from Big Wireless to Consumer Cellular could save people up to $600 a year. So they made the switch and started splurging on date night. And it became their favorite night. No, don't you dare. It's an acquired taste. If you're over 50, get 2 unlimited lines for $30 each. And right now, get your second month free. Call Consumer Cellular.
It's the Blue Compass RV annual Blue Tag clearance. Save over 40% on select new RVs during our largest sale of the year. Plus, every RV comes with a 1-year VIP membership to RV Complete, a $5,000 value. Visit us online or in store today.
All right, Merry Christmas. Welcome back to Frontline. There are many things to be grateful for this holiday season with Trump in office and on this Christmas Eve culture clash. Let me remind you that this was the message 4 years ago from the Biden administration. Look at this. We are intent on not letting Omicron disrupt work and school for the vaccinated. You've done the right thing, and we will get through this. For the unvaccinated, you're looking at a winter of death and severe illness for yourselves, your families, and the hospitals you may soon overwhelm. Ah, yes. Well, folks, I am proud to report that I am here unvaccinated and did not experience a winter of death, not to mention the same White House then went on 2 years later to turn Christmas into this is like White House weird freak show drag queen hour. Never forget what these people did to us, folks. Ever and never forgive them. Whitley Yates, political analyst and CEO of the Niche Agency, and Luke Ball, political strategist and CEO of Compass Strategies. All right, Whitley, I look back and I'm like, I seem to be doing a lot better than some of my other friends who did get vaccinated.
You know, it's so funny to look back and to think about how the Biden administration portrayed not only the holidays, but the American people, wishing people death during the holiday season, if not by COVID, then by the way that they were governing the United States, is traumatic and it's terrible. And the fact that that is what the White House was putting out at a time like this, when Jesus is a reason for the season, just goes to show what type of leadership we had in Biden.
Yeah, well, but Luke, same thing. You know, you wear a mask, that didn't work. Social distancing, that didn't work. Get vaccinated, turns out that actually killed children and caused massive amounts of heart problems in people. And yet we were told that it was safe and effective.
A winter of death and illness is actually what I call the 4 years under Joe Biden, because there was so much devastation. There was fear mongering the entire time. And once we go back and look at exactly what the science stated, they knew that what they were telling us was wrong, but they wanted to control us. Carl, the only way the Democrats are going to be able to put their agenda on the American people is if they do it through fear mongering, by telling them lies and by giving them information that is false in order to try and control their political narrative, because they're not going to convince us of it naturally through facts. They're going to have to do it through fear.
Yeah, well, Whitley, we spoke obviously to a Washington University professor earlier this week who says it's easier to find communists on campus than free speech advocates. He was no conservative, by the way, but recognized that there's barely a Republican presence on campus. I mean, it sounds similar to Yale, where that university, that's where my wife went to school. A new report finds that nearly 30 undergraduate departments have zero, zilch, nada, nothing, no Republican faculty members at all.
I mean, we're watching these liberal institutions turn into bastions of socialism and communism, and now we understand why. There is absolutely no difference of thought, and they are being taught by the socialists and the communists themselves. These are the Ivy League institutions in America that don't have any conservative thought, don't have any Republicans teaching or leading, and then we wonder why they're producing the types of students that want to kill other students, specifically Jewish ones, and take over campuses and bomb people. I'm not surprised that this is the type of ideology we're seeing from those institutions.
Yeah, shocker there. All right, Luke, here's a headline you don't see every day. Trans convict who fatally shot his parents in the head converts to Islam and then requests death penalty but gets 25 to life. Can you help me unpack this?
Well, it's like a liberal Mad Libs of terms there, Carl. It's disheartening. It's sad, but we see a pattern among individuals who have mental illness related to either autogynephilia or whatever you want to call it, and there are violent tendencies that appear to be associated with this. And it's really sad that our society then just tells them that they have to undergo multiple medical procedures, that they have to address a psychological issue with a physical solution that contributes to the mental illness problem. And so I think we're going to look back further down the road at the science that we gave these individuals, and we're going to write about how horrible it was and didn't have anything to do with facts.
Yeah. Well, here's another one, Whitley. The not very America first at all, actually. FedEx, they win this $2.2 billion federal contract that comes from our tax dollars. Then it hires hundreds of H-1B visa workers while laying off Americans. I'm like, I'm never shipping anything through FedEx ever again.
You know, it's really a shame that they were able to win this contract and not have the stipulation to hire Americans. And that is really disheartening. I know FedEx is headquartered in Memphis, a city that I used to live in. And so when we're looking at giving federal contracts to these businesses, we need to make sure that these are America First businesses, that they're hiring Americans and retaining the Americans that they're hiring when our tax dollars are the ones paying their bills.
Yeah, and Luke, it goes to the same fact that, like, how many times have we seen, like, oh, minority-owned business, and then they outsource it to Deloitte?
Yesterday, I was speaking to one of my friends. I was in Texas, and he's working for a company that does a lot of coding, and he was saying that they bring in these individuals, and what they say on their resumes and their education and background is not accurate. They don't assimilate into the culture. They don't actually have the skills that they present on paper, so they are using this system to fraudulently come into the United States, and they are lying to these companies that are hiring them, and it's pushing out American workers. So I hope we wake up to this. I know it's like a debate in the Republican Party right now, but we need to put Americans first and prioritize their education over other people.
Yeah, I like the H-1B may have had good intentions, but how many bad things in history have been done with good intentions? Whitley, Luke, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
All right, coming up, the Somali fraud scheme is just getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. A man who's following the fraud plaguing Minnesota closely, Town Hall columnist Dustin Grage, joins me with the details next.
You know Rob Finnerty. He's smart, bold, and stands strong for your values. Rob is fighting for you. Watch Finnerty weeknights only on Newsmax.
Hi, folks. I'd like to tell you about YRefi. Did you know that as an accredited investor, when you invest in YRefi, your interest rate is fixed? And did you know that you can invest from 1 to 5 years and you can spread your investment over those terms to best suit your needs? And you have the freedom to take your monthly interest income or reinvest it, whatever you choose. When you invest in YRefi, your interest is calculated daily, you're paid monthly, and should you need your money back early, there is a liquidity feature. Would you like more information? All you have to do is call 877-80-INVEST. That's 877-80-INVEST, or log on to investyrrefi.com. That's investyrrefi.com for complete details. And make sure you review the private placement memorandum and scan this QR code to view the disclosure at your leisure. YRefi, investing in America's future.
We're talking to people today about investments. Let's see if we can get somebody. Excuse me, sir. Do you have a retirement account?
I do. I'm invested in some annuities.
Fixed income? How is that?
It was better a few years ago. Each year, it buys less and less, barely keeping up.
That's where gold can make a difference. Unlike fixed payouts, gold rises with inflation, so you're not stuck with a low fixed payment.
So gold isn't stuck in the past like my annuity?
Don't let inflation erode your retirement savings. Invest in gold. Invest with Noble Gold Investments.
My husband is Michael J. Cardus. In March, he got a phone call that said, "You have lymphoma, it's treatable." He died the next morning. My biggest fears were, how do I financially support the kids? How do I emotionally support the kids? And then Tunnel to Towers paid off my mortgage. I felt like I was seen, that my service mattered to somebody.
Now it's a great time to play Solitaire Grand Harvest and enjoy a new world of solitaire. Brr, a cold world. This Christmas, discover all the holiday fun with exciting features from Santa, like our winter tournaments, festive mini-games, and challenging levels. Ever built a farm in the snow? 'Tis the season to turn classic into fantastic. So download Solitaire Grand Harvest for free and see for yourself.
Hi, I'm Trudy of Johnny Chick's Home and Hardware. Customers ask me all the time how to prepare for cold weather and avoid costly plumbing problems. My answer is the Freeze Miser. It installs in seconds without tools and activates only when the water temperature drops below 37 degrees. The Freeze Miser releases the minimal amount of water needed to prevent freezing. It's perfect for your home, farm and ranch, RV, water wells, and much more. Ask for the Freeze Miser at your favorite hardware or farm and ranch store, or go to freezemiser.com.
Is Pilates for you? Well, this is Club Pilates, and we think it's for everybody, because that's the point of Pilates, to feel strong and balanced and good. Exactly. Everybody Club Pilates.
All over the past month, actually, I've been warning you for about a year on this, but it's really blown up in the last month. We've been flooded with stories of Somali fraud throughout the nation, whether it be like Maine or Michigan, especially Minnesota. I mean, basically little Somalia there. A trend super evident where there is a huge Somali immigrant population and then a bunch of fraud follows. Now, the House Oversight Committee wants some answers, naturally. Now, this week, committee chair James Comer called for interviews with Minnesota officials and asked the Treasury Department for suspicious activity reports and a briefing from the Justice Department. Now, House Minority Whip Tom Emmer, Majority Whip, a Minnesota congressman himself, says it's not racist to call out alleged Somali fraud, because that's what they're playing. Like the U.S. attorney in Minnesota says at least $9 billion was taken from taxpayers. A man who's following the fraud plaguing Minnesota closely, writing it on nearly every day. Town Hall columnist Dustin Grage. All right, Dustin, this is my problem. It's like, hey, where did 18 billion or 9 billion, whatever dollars go? And they're like, oh, that's Islamophobic. No, it's not.
No, and honestly, a lot of this has stemmed from, hey, you're a racist if you bring this into question. I mean, this goes back to 2013, frankly. Even some stories going back to 2000. But 2013 is when it really started to kick off with a program called CCAT, which was a program meant for, disparaged parents who are low income, who just want to be able to send their kids to daycare so they can also go to work. This is when that started. In 2018, we're starting to talk about it's potentially going to fund terrorism in Somalia through Al-Shabaab. And now, 2020, it, of course, balloons into this completely different animal. But how does it get hidden for so long, of course? Well, if you question these stories, if you dig into it, you're a racist. And I can tell you, mainstream outlet journalists have looked into this and have been stopped in their newsrooms from being able to pursue these stories further. But aside from us in the, quote unquote, non-mainstream journalism area, we've been hitting at this for a while, and we're just happy it's finally starting to pick up. And when we first started to cover this on Laura Ingraham after the Rufo report really blew this off the top the last month, I had pointed out in the program that whistleblowers within DHS have been saying for a while, they see the fraud exceeding $6.5 billion. Now we're finding that this thing is potentially $9 billion or greater. And keep in mind, Carl, we're only talking about a scope of 14 different high-risk programs within the state of Minnesota that will be, greater than half at 18 billion paying out. We're potentially talking about 10 billion plus pretty effortlessly when we also include programs outside of those 14
which, by the way,
programs.
is greater than the GDP of Somalia that they're sending it back to. So it's just but it's not just Minnesota or Maine. Where, I mean, the left's got this weird display of this weird love for Somalis that I don't understand. But Boston Mayor Wu basically said that the Somali community is the glue holding our city together. Just watch.
Talk about any achievement that the city of Boston has had in safety, jobs, and economic development, in education, without talking about the Somali community that has lifted our city up. We are proud and we are grateful for our Somali community and for our Somali American neighbors. Boston and the country are clear that hate has no place in our society.
Apparently, stupidity has a ton of place in that society because she can't point to a single, name me one. They speak in these broad, placid generalities. Name me one specific metric that you were saying that Somalis have made Boston a better place. Go.
It really doesn't exist. And quite frankly, to bring an example like Boston, I mean, talk about an anchor in American heritage. Somalis didn't come for hundreds of years after that was established.
Right.
Not the glue by any metric. In fact, in every area that Somalis have come into the country, we're talking about well over 50% of them all on some type of government assistance or some way or form. I mean, they really haven't provided that much. And in cases now that we're finding, these successful business owners within the Somali community, a lot of it is perpetuated through government fraud.
Yeah. And in all your research, actually, this is just kind of coming to me right now. Why do people move from the hot desert in Somalia to places like Maine, Boston, and Minneapolis, where it's -40 for half the year?
I mean, quite frankly, to put it straightforward, we have a immense safety net in these areas. When we're talking about Minnesota in particular, Lutheran Catholic Services is really what brought these individuals over in the first place, because then you can find out that you can just rig this system. And I mean, talk about third world countries. I mean, if you come here and you're in poverty, quote unquote, you're living like a king in contrast to these third world communities. Now take these third world communities and you just export them in mass without any plan of assimilation, you are going to eventually import the third world into the first world. And there's no path forward unless you come up with a plan for assimilation, which clearly this community does not want to commit to.
I mean, look, these third world countries are third world countries because they have third world people in them. Dustin, we appreciate it very much. All right, coming up, why shouldn't English be mandatory language spoken in America, especially on kids' school buses? See what happens to this PA school bus driver when she tries to make it a requirement on her bus to protect other students. Next.
Poverty is unimaginable. There are people who are struggling.
This is where she washes the dishes.
If you're ever going to allow your Christian faith to rise and to do something for God's chosen people, now is the time.
This is the home of Galena. She's 96 years old.
This is what she had to eat for today.
She has one pot with water and wheat.
My father was killed by the Nazis, and I was an orphan. I didn't know about God. But now, in the cold, hungry nights, I pray for food to the God I've never known. There are good people that love you.
You see the tears. Scripture says joy can come in the morning, and you can be the reason.
If you will bless these hurting children of Israel, you will receive God's blessing in return. Your urgent gift today of $25 will help rush a survival food box filled with life-saving essentials. If you call right now, your gift's impact will be doubled to help save lives. Call, scan, or go online now.
I'm not exaggerating when I tell you, I don't know how much longer she could have waited for us to come.
I can't even grow my food anymore. What will happen to me? I'm doomed to starve.
Tens of thousands of elderly Holocaust survivors in the former Soviet Union are living in extreme poverty, hungry, and forgotten. But through the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews, we can bring them hope.
Eggs. It's my favorite food. May you be blessed.
You say to them, we see you and we're here to help.
If you call right now, your gift's impact will be doubled to help save lives.
I'm Elmer Heinrich, the 91-year-old formulator of Immuno 150, an incredible nutritional supplement. There's nothing like it. Now, Immuno 150 is different because it contains 70 plant-derived minerals and 80 other nutrients. Dr. Linus Pauling, known for vitamin C, was instrumental in convincing me to get into the mineral business in 1983. He said the world is sick due to a lack of minerals in topsoil. He said the body needs 60 minerals, but the average food and supplement has no more than 12. That's the reason for Immuno 150. Since its inception, it's had a powerful impact on the lives of thousands of people who could not get any help from various supplements they took or their doctor. Now, I suggest you try Immuno 150 to see what 70 minerals, CoQ10, and 80 nutrients can do for you. Look at the videos on our website. Millions have. Now, consider placing an order for Immuno 150 online or call our toll-free number. I know you'll be glad you did.
All right, Merry Christmas. Welcome back to Frontline. Earlier this week, we told you about the American city mayor who can use a translator in a court hearing. But a school bus driver from Pennsylvania just got fired for saying that she wanted English only on her bus because a bilingual student was allegedly riling up other kids.
I didn't mean to be racially insensitive or anything like that. I didn't know if he was bullying somebody, telling them to do something they shouldn't do. How do you keep control of your bus if you have no control? Maybe I should have worded it different. Maybe I should have said bullying has no bullying in any language, but I didn't mean it to be anything but to correct him. I dedicated everything I had to driving bus.
Terrible people that hurt that poor lady, I mean, trying to fire her for that, trying to make sure that other students were being bullied on her watch, and now she's out of a job for it. She's now suing Juanita County School District, and she should. Assistant Attorney General Harmeet Dhillon has eyes on this case as well. She tweeted out, "This is deeply concerning. I have directed the DOJ Civil Rights Division to open an investigation into the situation implicating DEI wokeness." Good. Joe Pags, host of the Joe Pags Show. Sir, we are in America where we do speak English.
You know, if you don't speak English, you can't read the founding documents. If you don't speak English, you can't be a success in this country.
And what are you doing in
school? I don't know any CEO, I don't know anybody who's a billionaire who doesn't speak English. So for this lady to say, no Spanish, English only, can you tell me what part of that sentence is racially charged or racially motivated? Because Spanish, last time I checked, is not a race. I mean, she doesn't know what they're saying. Other students felt unsafe. It's her job to keep them safe. Carl, I'm missing it. What did she do wrong?
I don't think she did anything wrong, Joe. And it leads me to the same double standard that goes across all of these liberals' policy. I mean, this is actually really interesting. If you ask Amazon's AI chat, the Rufus thing, I didn't even know this was a thing, you could search back for black-owned businesses on the Amazon store, but they give you the step-by-step instruction on how to get there. But if you try to search for white-owned businesses, you get nothing. And also, Harmeet Dhillon is looking into this issue as well. She said this might be a matter for the Federal Trade Commission.
Well, I would think so. I mean, think about it. You can't look up Italian-owned businesses either, I don't think. I mean, at the end of the day, either we are a country that is unified. You know, I was just talking to a friend of mine about this a little while ago. Diversity is not our strength. Diversity is great. Get here, then become unified. Unity is our strength. The great Charlie Kirk said that. Why is it that these big businesses think separating us by our skin tone or our ancestry somehow is the right way to go? People like you and me don't want to give them our money if they're going to exclude people like you and me. How about everybody goes there and shops and everybody can have a business, and it doesn't matter who your parents' were.
But I would argue, like, the one thing that Democrats hate is the diversity of thought. That's the thing that makes us strong. Like, give me a diversity in a better rocket engine to get people to space, diversity in cancer treatments that save more lives. I don't care if you're black, white, blue, green, orange, yellow, whatever. I mean, that doesn't help me at all if I need radiation therapy.
You and I couldn't agree more. Diversity of thought is the only diversity that I really care about because, again, it doesn't matter to me what you look like, where you came from, what color your hair is. If you can save me from the burning house, I want you at my burning house to save my family and me. We keep on checking off these boxes that aren't helping anybody. It's making some doofus, probably a white woman, to be honest, feel better about herself. It doesn't make any sense.
Right. Well, here's another investigation opened up, this time by the Department of Homeland Security, after the CISA director, the Cyber and Infrastructure Security Agency. Okay, this guy, I don't know, they put it on the screen for me. That's his name. He failed a polygraph test. Okay, and DHS is investigating whether the staff provided, quote, false information about the need for the test, which was scheduled after the director sought access to certain highly sensitive cyber intelligence stuff. At least 6 staffers have now been placed on leave.
You know, to me, first of all, CISA, CISA, whatever we're calling it, I don't know why it exists. I mean, it's something that they were using as an apparatus under the Biden administration to censor all of us online. And I didn't like it then. I don't like it now. But if the guy failed the polygraph test and he's the guy who's looking to get more information that's highly classified, I don't know that I have a problem with this. But from what I understand, all of these lifetime, people who have been there are all afraid for their jobs now. To me, I don't know why this exists. What is it, $3 billion a year that they spend of your money and mine on an organization that doesn't do anything for you and me and our families? I don't understand it, to be honest. But nothing. But yeah, we should learn how to pronounce the guy's name. I'm not sure what to say about that either. No. It's a lot of letters, Carl. I'll give you that much.
Naga work here anymore. Is probably what I
I think that's how you pronounce it. Exactly right.
All right, real quick, D.C. Police Chief Pamela Smith, crazy person. Like, I can't imagine working with her. This is how she sounded after her resignation. Roll this.
How dare you! How dare you! How dare you! Attack my integrity! Attack my character! You don't know who I belong to! So I'm going to the Bible when I say this to my haters. F you.
Is that in the Bible? I haven't seen that part. Now, by the way, she did go to the Greta Thunberg class of how to speak in front of a microphone and a camera. How dare you? But she screamed it. Carl, how dare you what? Make crime better? How dare you what? Keep people safer? How dare you what? Notice that you sucked at the job? I'm not really sure what she's outraged about.
Yeah, she's outraged that she got called out for being like an insane person, basically. But that was before.
And then she proved it.
Yeah, exactly. Joe Pax, my man. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, Carl. Thanks, man.
All right, folks, don't go anywhere. Back in a sec.
You know, everybody's reporting the same stories, the same spin. You turn the channel, it's always the same. But not us. We're different. We report the real news. No spin, just the facts. Turn to us, and you won't turn back.
Tune in to Rob Schmidt tonight on Newsmax.
Kevin Sorbo here, and I have an important message to share. The government needs more money. Your money. If you owe the IRS back taxes, they can garnish your wages and levy your bank accounts. They can even seize your retirement or take your home. Don't let the IRS target you. Call the professionals at Tax Network USA. Their tax lawyers and enrolled agents are experts in powerful programs that may even help you eliminate your tax debt.
Call for a free consultation or visit tnusa.com.
President Trump promised to put America first, and his word is as good as gold. Trump delivered a secure border, unleashed American energy, and provided the largest tax cut in American history. Now Trump has delivered again by rescheduling cannabis, which was classified as more dangerous than fentanyl. Trump's action will destroy the cartel's illicit black market, expand medical research, and ensure seniors and veterans safely receive the care they need. Thank President Trump for delivering on another America First promise.
As a neurologist, my patients are often concerned with age-related memory decline. I recommend Cunol Brain Health with 2 powerful, high-absorption ingredients clinically shown to improve memory, focus, attention, and more. Cunol, the brand I trust.
I was tired of sitting on the sidelines. Now, thanks to Jointivia, I'm back in the swing of things. Wait, $70 for a refill?
You gotta try Single Care. Just look up your prescription, show the coupon at the pharmacy, and save.
Really?
Really. Single Care crushes the cost of my prescription, almost as much as I'm crushing Chad.
Unbelievable. See why more people are saving with Single Care. Common side effects include shockingly lower prices, excessive fist bumps, and humbling guys named Chad.
I trust Balance of Nature because I trust the simplicity of what it is.
This Christmas, get our best price for life when you order the whole health system as a new preferred customer. Go to balanceofnature.com.
You woke up with a sore throat and a low-grade fever. You know you are getting sick, so here's your choices. You can get sicker and miss work, try to see a doctor this week, or sit hours in a crowded waiting room at urgent care.
I have a smarter option for you. Open your medical emergency kit. Match your symptoms to doctor-recommended prescription in your booklet and take the right meds now and get well faster.
This is not a first aid kit. It's like having an urgent care in your home. It includes doctor-prescribed medications to treat over 39 medical issues like respiratory infections, strep throat, pneumonia, UTIs, and more.
No waiting to see the doctor and no standing in line at the pharmacy. It's right here.
Every home should have at least one medical emergency kit, and here's how to order.
Order online and save $45. Your kit to treat dozens of common and serious illnesses is rushed to your door. Visit urgentcarekit.com/news, promo code NEWS. That's urgentcarekit.com/news, promo code NEWS.
How would you live your life differently if you knew it was only a matter of time before you went completely deaf and blind? I have Usher syndrome, a rare condition that's causing me to lose all of my vision and hearing at the same time. I'm a fighter, trying to hold on to what I still have. But I can't do it alone.
Before we go, we want to wish everybody a very Merry Christmas from our Frontline and Newsmax family to yours. This season's all about gratitude, togetherness, and the people who make this journey so special. And I just wanted to give you a shout out from our families as well. Here's all of our families: Sam, Emily, Christy, Sarah, Kate, Alyssa. I have no idea who that guy is. Oh, yeah, that's Jeff, my executive producer, and, of course, my family as well. We've got everybody in here. Folks, it's really been a pleasure. We're going to keep this going, obviously, through the new year. But, you know, all of us here at Frontline, we take these things very seriously. We're not just like people on TV. We actually are a genuine family. And, you know, we all look out for each other. And so when we try to get together for the end of the year, we hope you do, too. From the bottom of our hearts, it really is something special, especially someone who's been at war and, you know, spent many holidays away from their family. It's a real chance for, you know, you to reconsider what's important in life. So we hope that you do the same. You know, even the family members like the liberal in-laws that I got, even if you don't like them, it is good. You know, so once again, from all of us here, this is who we are. We're regular, everyday people that just want to get together with love and joy and laughter and have a little well-deserved rest, obviously, which, you know, we all need. So from all of us here, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. We appreciate it very much.